Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Got another crossout video for us today. Now today's video is going to be basically about armor in crossout. I want to cover essentially anything and everything in regards to armor and armoring in this game today. The video itself is going to be split into 4 sections. The first section is going to be what are the single best armor pieces in crossout, the type of thing that should be used on any build no matter what because it's just the best of the best. The second section is going to be covering the 5 different types of armor pieces in the game. So for those who don't know, there are 5 different types of armor pieces, each of which does slightly different things, a bit of nuances to all of them, and I will cover all of those. The third section is going to be basically the best armor pieces that should go on every build, not the single best piece, but the best pieces overall that you see on everything because they are just really good and the things that I would recommend. And finally, the fourth section is going to be the best armor pieces that I would recommend or go on generally most builds. Maybe the most efficient stuff like that, the things that I use, the pieces that I use the most, and the things you'll see the most often because they are just some of the most efficient to use. So, firstly, we're going to go into what are the single best armor panels in the game, and that is the new, unsurprisingly, radiator bonnets. Now, I'll talk about the hybrid pieces more in the third section, but all you really need to know is that these pieces, as you can see, have 110 durability, but they have 50% bullet resistances. Now that 110 spreads in 2 parts of the build. It gives you 110 durability on the cabin. So if you were to put this, if I were to take this off, for example, I'll lose 110 durability. If I put it back, I gain it. So you get 110 dura on the cabin, but the part itself also has 220 effective HP against bullet damage when you put it on the build. So basically, it's just the most efficient. You get 220 effective HP on the part itself. You get 110 HP on the cab, and it can act as a really good like gun amount for parts as well. It's just the most efficient in the game. You get all that for only 115 kilograms, which is pretty insane. So if you're looking for the single best part in the game to use, it's the bonnet. You see them on everything. Doesn't matter if it's a huge Goliath, a huge meat grinder build weighing 30 tons, or a tiny Catalina car. It does not matter. Every build uses these, and that's the reason why. So move on to section 2 now. Okay, section number 2, as we said, we're going to cover the 5 different pieces of armoring in this game. The first one we're going to start with is bumpers. Now, for those who are looking for bumpers on the structure screen, you basically just go, you have shoot throughs at the very top up until here. From here down, you will have conventional armor. And then from the bully bumper to here, these are all of the bumpers in the game. Now, bumpers are different than usual armor, mostly because you get very high ram resistances and you get very high melee resistances with bumpers. And you tend to have a slightly better durability to mass ratio on a bumper than you would on an armor panel. Now, you'll see these on builds out in front of the cabin or at the floor of the cabin from pretty much every time because even though they have really good resistances, like for example, against ram resistance, against ram damage, this has 90% resistance against ram, so 185 durability turns into 1850. And against melee, he has 75 resistance, so 180 durability turns into 720 durability. So you'll always see armor panels, if they are mounted on a build, or sorry, if you bumper panels, if they're mounted on a build, they will be out in front of the build where they are likely to get hit by melee or they are likely to get rammed by a car, like here, for example. Now, the downside, you do have it is a trade-off for this, but the downside of bumper pieces is that even though they have very good durability, none of that durability goes on the cabin. So these two bumper pieces here, for example, they have 420 durability each, but that does not help the HP of a cab like a normal armor piece would. So if my cabin were to take 7,300 damage here, and these bumpers weren't to be touched, they are essentially wasted mass. They only help your build if they themselves are shot at or they are destroyed. If your cabin takes damage and your build is destroyed and these don't take damage, they just do not help at all. They are dead weight, essentially. Which is why you always see them out in front of the build. It would never be a good idea to put bumper pieces at the back or the middle here because they're like unlikely to take damage and they will not help my build. But if I put them here, then they are guaranteed to help my build in some way because they have those good ratios, like I said. Okay, part number 2. This is the reinforced parts, reinforced armor panel, sorry. Basically, all you gotta know is that they have very good ratios as long as they get shot in the reinforced section. Anything that is white on here is a reinforced section. If it takes damage by here, for example, it will not get any of its resistances. So you can see resistances above the durability. It has 60% against shoot-throughs and 50 to 75 against most other things. So if I were to shoot it at, say, this angle with bullet damage, there's 54 durability and 60% bullet resistance. That means it takes about 130 bullet damage to destroy this piece. So if I was shooting at this and I shot it at this angle, I would get, with bullet damage, I have to take 130 damage to be destroyed. Now 130 durability for 170 mass, that's actually a very good ratio, which is what you want. But if I were to shoot it from this angle with bullet damage, then you're only getting 54 durability for 172 kilograms, which is very inefficient, which is quite bad, obviously. So you will see these on builds quite often, but they need to be mounted in a way whereby it is very, very likely that they will take damage in their reinforced section. If they take damage and not in the reinforced section, then they are very inefficient armor. They also give 85 durability to the cabin as well, which is really quite helpful. So you can mount these out in front of the build if you wanted to, but also you can do it like around guns, for example, just to make sure that you get a bit more durability on those guns if need be. Okay, thirdly is your general armor piece. Now, this is anything from, like I said, from the bumper up all the way up to the shoot tools at the very top. These are general armor pieces. They essentially have two purposes. So the durability on this piece gives me 115 durability. It gives me on the piece itself, so the armor piece here, but it also gives me the 115 durability on the cabin. So as you can see, if I take it off, I'll put it back on, it goes up by 115. So I get the durability in both places. Now that's useful because if we go back to my machinist, that is useful in the sense that if I were in this machinist, for example, I could take 7,000 durability to the cabin and it would be benefiting from all of the HP that is given to me from the armor pieces. If I were to then turn my back and you had to finish off the build from the back by here, and you couldn't hit the top of the car, you had to chew for all of this armor again, none of this loses its durability. None of these pieces lose their durability unless they are shot. So if I were to take 7,000 damage in the cab only, none of these would get weakened at all. So what you can do is, you can lead a charge with the front of your build, wait until you're very low, and then show your back, so that the enemy tries to finish you off but doesn't, and you're taking all the damage here, because you get a durability bonus in both pieces. So that, for example, if I were to take these two pieces by here, they have 80 durability each. They give me 80 durability on the actual panel, but also on the cabin, which is why you see them to the sides and at the back of most builds. Okay, number 3 is basically a hybrid piece. These are the best types of armoring in the game because they are a mix between a general armor piece and a shoot through, which we will get to. But basically all you need to know is that they have 40 durability and they have 50% damage resist against bullets. So if I were to shoot at this piece with bullets, which is most of the damage in the game, like scorpions, punishers, stuff like that, it would take 84 durability, 84 damage to destroy this 44 kilogram part, which is very efficient. So pieces like this, they can act as general armor, but they can also act as basically glue for the other armor pieces because they're very hard to destroy in comparison to regular armor pieces for their size as well. So they're just kind of the best type of piece in the game because you can put them anywhere and they will always benefit the build. Compare that to, say, a shoot through. Now a shoot through has even better ratios, so you will get 38 durability for only 40 kilograms. That's pretty good overall, but it has 90% shoot through resistances. So against, say, Punisher damage and Scorpion damage, this 40 durability piece will have 380 durability. Now that's useful if you're using it as a gun mount. Essentially, if you want to keep something on the builds, you will attach it to this and attach it to other things, but you will attach it to a shoot through. Like a gun, for example. If you can't mount the gun on a cabin, you want to mount it somewhere else, but you want it to stick to the build as much as possible, you put it on a shoot through part. The downside of a shoot through part is that it doesn't help your cabin in any way. The durability or the resistances are only for the piece itself. It's like a bumper in that way. If you were to put this on the build, it does not help the cabin HP at all. So if we see here, Doesn't matter. Does not help you at all. It only helps if this is being shot. So you tend not to see these in the game as much because it's better for just use a hybrid, because a hybrid will also act as a gun mount, but it'll also act as durability for the cabin, which is dual purpose, obviously quite useful. So unless this piece gets shot, it doesn't actually help your build. And that's all 5 sections covered. In terms of what is meta, you'll see the armor panels all the time. You'll see the hybrids quite often. You'll see general armor because you need to, and you'll see the bumpers out in front. But in terms of shoot foods, you don't see them a whole lot at the moment, to be honest. All right, we'll move on to section 3 now. Okay, section number 3 are basically, like I said, the meta pieces in the game. The pieces that you should and you will see people use on any build, no matter what. They're all basically the hybrid pieces for the most part, except for the hybrid pieces and the armor slabs, because, like I said, the hybrid pieces, you get very good ratios out of them. You get durability on the piece itself and on the cabin, and it can basically be used as general armor or as a gun mount. It's just very efficient. Like, for example, this piece has a really good ratio, but if you want to use it as a gun mount, it's got 200 durability in a very small area. It's just better than, say, a shoot through for the most part. Armor slabs are also just universally really good. You can always figure out the way, no matter what the build, to mount them in a sense that they're very likely or guaranteed to take damage on their reinforced slab. So if you can even use armor slabs to protect the weak spots of armor slabs. So if we take this part, for example, it has incredibly good resistances on the top half, so you want to make sure it gets shot in the top half. So what you can do is just use the one armor slab to cover the weak spots of another. So that if I had like guns by here, you can cover them with armor slabs like this, and then these have crazy good resistances for their size and their mass. So it's just fantastic to use like this. You'll see these on practically every single build. Same thing with the Saya and the Power Slide. You get really good ratios and you get that bullet resistance, which is most of the damage you will take, and they're just incredibly efficient. And the same, all of the hybrid pieces, you'll see these on practically every single build. The only time any of these aren't used will be the helicopter wings, and that's only because you're using them on, say, incredibly heavy meat grinders to the point where you have so much spare mass that you can just swap this out for, say, 140 durability armor panel, and it's just to get that HP up essentially. But anything that isn't like a super heavy grinder, you will see all of these pieces by here used, and they are just the most efficient and the best pieces in the game. The hybrid pieces in this game are just fantastic. You should get them basically as soon as you can, in my opinion. Okay, on to section number 4. Okay, as I said, section number 4 is basically just going to be for the general armor panels, the type of panels that I said give you HP on the cabin, but also have HP on the parts themselves, so dual purpose. You have to use general armor like this on all of your builds. It doesn't really matter. The other pieces you use are supplementary, but these are the meat of most builds in the game. And these are basically my favorite panels to use for most of the builds. The only thing you're really looking at is the durability to mass ratio compared to how big the part is. So we'll take, these are some of the best in the game, for example, because they have a really good ratio of 82 dura to 135 kilograms. That's a very good ratio, but they also cover a massive area. It's 8x4, so these are some of the best in the game. If you can make this work on a build, then you should. Same with every other piece. I'm not going to talk about each individually. You just take a screenshot or something, but all you really need to know is that they all have very good ratios for their surface area, because you'll all know that armor in this game works kind of weird, whereby say if this has 82 durability, I could do all 82 durability to like that tiny pixel here, and then the entire piece would fall off. So as long as you have a large surface area to cover as much of your build as possible, you can guarantee that that armor piece will be used essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. These are some of my favorites. There are plenty of others in the game, but for the most part, you can just put these on your build and then supplement them if you have additional mass. So say, for example, this is a 3x2 piece. You just use a star like this. This is a 3x2 piece. So if you were on a build and you used this and then you had spare mass, you could just swap this out for the Founders version, which is also a 3x2. It has a less efficient ratio, but it has more mass essentially. So if you are spare mass, you might as well just use a bigger piece to get more HP out of your build. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that covered essentially all of the armor in the game and which one's the best and which ones you should use. So thank you all for watching, and I will catch you for tomorrow's video.